Okay, so you're scrolling through your feed, right? And it just hits you again. Again, another perfect vacation photo, someone else's amazing new job, another filtered selfie, just radiating pure, uncomplicated joy.
Uh-huh. It's relentless, isn't it?
Totally. And that constant stream, these seemingly flawless online lives, it can really start to make you wonder, is this endless pressure we feel, this need to optimize our online selves, actually taking a toll?
Yeah, I mean, is our social media obsession pushing us towards some kind of collective exhaustion?
Exactly. And that feeling, that sort of modern unease, it ties right into the philosopher Byung-Chul Han's work, doesn't it?
It really does. He puts his finger right on that pulse, that feeling many of us have, but maybe can't quite articulate.
So today, that's what we're doing. We're diving deep into Han's ideas, especially from the Burnout Society, but also his other writings. We want to really unpack his analysis of how societies change, particularly in this digital age.
And the goal here, the mission, if you like, is to understand Han's diagnosis of, well, us now.
Right. Are online habits, this constant self-improvement drive, actually fueling the very burnout society he warned about, with what he calls the violence of positivity and this nonstop pressure to achieve?
It's a critical question. And Han's starting point is fascinating. He argues that the whole way society influences us, how power operates, has fundamentally shifted.
He talks about moving beyond Foucault's disciplinary society, right?
Mhm.
Like the old model of external control, think prisons, factories, strict schools.
Exactly. Those external constraints, the clear rules, the surveillance. Han says we've largely moved into an achievement society.
Okay, so it's less about outside forces keeping us in line and more about an internal drive, like we push ourselves.
Precisely. We've become, in his terms, achievement subjects,
Mhm.
even entrepreneurs of ourselves. The pressure isn't so much the negative, you can't do that.
It's more the positive, you can do anything, you should be better kind of vibe.
That's it. This pervasive positive pressure to constantly perform, to optimize. Think about fitness culture, the self-help industry, the way hustle is glorified online. It's all about, yes, we can.
Which brings us smack into one of Han's really striking ideas, especially relevant online, this violence of positivity. Let's dig into that. It sounds paradoxical.
It does, initially.
Hmm.
But Han's point is crucial. Harm today doesn't just come from negativity from external threats or the other, as you might put it. It can actually come from an excess of positivity.
An excess. How so?
Well, think of it like an immune system reacting not just to foreign invaders, but kind of overreacting to itself,
Yeah.
or to things that aren't inherently harmful. Han uses this metaphorically. The constant demand to be positive, be successful, be happy, perform. It's relentless. It's the pressure of the same.
Okay, so it's not like negative comments are the only problem online.
Right. This violence of positivity, this overload, Han argues, leads to these characteristic psychic illnesses of our time.
Mm.
Exhaustion, fatigue, depression. These are the symptoms of his burnout society.
And you see that reflection on social media constantly. The pressure to project that perfect, successful image. You compare your own messy reality to someone else's curated highlight reel and inevitably feel inadequate.
hmm So that good vibes only culture, while seeming positive, can actually be quite damaging. It denies the complexity of real life.
Yeah, it creates this pressure cooker. Now, Han also talks about attention, doesn't he? A difference between types of attention.
Yes, he contrasts what he calls deep contemplative attention, the kind needed for, deep thought, creativity, major cultural achievements, with hyperattention.
Hyperattention, that sounds familiar. Like multitasking constant information streams.
Exactly, that scattered focus, jumping from one thing to the next. And social media platforms seem almost perfectly designed to cultivate this hyperattention.
Oh, for sure. The endless scroll, the notifications popping up, the short form video, it feels like it's rewiring how we focus. Or don't focus.
And Han makes this really interesting link to Walter Benjamin, who talked about deep boredom. Benjamin saw boredom not as negative, but as this fertile ground, a dream bird that hatches the egg of experience, he called it.
Wow. Okay. So hyperattention actively prevents that kind of productive boredom, that space for deeper thought.
That's Han's argument. We're so busy consuming, reacting, scrolling. We rarely allow ourselves that kind of profound idleness where something truly original might emerge. We fill every gap.
That really resonates. We grab the phone in any quiet moment. Han also brings in Nietzsche, something about learning to see.
Yeah, Nietzsche's idea of cultivating a slow, patient, deliberate way of observing the world, resisting the urge for immediate reaction, taking time to truly perceive.
Okay. And how does Han connect that to now?
He links our modern inability to resist stimuli, that constant pull of the phone, the need to check every notification right now, to a lack of this cultivated spirituality, as he puts it. He even suggests it's a symptom of our collective exhaustion.
So compulsively checking our feeds isn't just a bad habit. It might actually be a sign that we're overwhelmed, losing our agency over our own attention.
That's the implication. Real agency, or sovereignty as Han might term it, involves the ability to say no, to resist the constant pinging, to consciously direct our focus, not just be pulled along passively.
Okay, this feels like it connects to another slightly unnerving idea, the digital panopticon. But it's not like a literal prison tower watching us.
No, it's much more subtle. Han argues social media functions like a panopticon, but with a twist. We aren't isolated prisoners being watched. We're willingly, even eagerly putting ourselves on display. There's constant communication, constant self-disclosure.
Right. We're choosing to share, to broadcast our lives. It's voluntary.
Exactly. He calls it auto-illumination. We shine the spotlight on ourselves, and this blurs the line between freedom and control in a really complex way. The pressure to be visible, to share, it fuels this whole thing.
That feeling of always needing to be on to perform your life online, that's the auto-illumination he's talking about.
Precisely. Yeah. And it feeds directly into his concept of the transparency society.
Okay, transparency society. That sounds good, like openness.
Well, yes and no. Han sees it as this compulsion to eliminate all gaps, all secrets, all opacity. Everything must be visible, accessible, immediate.
And the downside?
Han argues that while it speeds up communication of the same, reinforcing what's already known or accepted, it can actually be quite totalitarian. It smooths over differences, discourages complexity, and can stifle real critique or otherness. Negativity, in the sense of secrets, distance, or the unknown, is dismantled.
And you see that online, right? The demand for authenticity often means oversharing. Anything hidden becomes suspicious.
And this links to trust. Common wisdom says transparency builds trust, but Han flips that.
How so?
He suggests the demand for transparency actually arises from a lack of trust. And paradoxically, demanding total visibility can erode trust further. If you truly trust someone, you don't need constant surveillance or proof.
That's interesting. The constant monitoring and judgment inherent in social media seems to fit that, like, we're always checking up on each other because trust isn't the default.
It's a compelling argument, and it relates to another shift Han identifies, from being a subject to being a project.
Subject to project. What's the difference?
Think of subject as being under external laws, structures, perhaps even fate. Project, on the other hand, implies continuous self-design, self-optimization. We see ourselves as these ongoing projects that need constant work and improvement.
And social media is the perfect workshop for that project.
Absolutely. Our profiles become these curated versions of our ideal selves, constantly tweaked, updated, optimized for public consumption. We're perpetually marketing ourselves.
It does feel like that sometimes, like managing a personal brand.
Which, Han suggests, leads us to adopt a kind of hunter mentality online.
A hunter mentality, like chasing something.
Yeah, he draws this analogy. The digital user becomes an information hunter, always seeking the next hit, the next piece of data, consuming quickly, impatiently. He contrasts this with Heidegger's image of the farmer, someone characterized by patience, care, reserve, a slower rhythm.
Okay, I see. The hunter scrolls rapidly, looking for prey, likes, shares, attention, the next dopamine hit. Not really cultivating anything.
Exactly. It's about the quick capture fueled by that hyperattention we talked about. Click, glance, scroll, hunt for the next thing.
And surely this constant hunting, this information overload, it must have consequences.
Han thinks so. He discusses something called information fatigue syndrome, or IFS.
IFS, what is that?
He describes it as a kind of psychic illness born from information overload. It leads to weakened analytical skills, attention deficits, maybe even a general inability to bear responsibility because everything feels overwhelming.
Wow. And the sheer volume of stuff flying at us on social media, the pressure to stay informed about everything, it sounds like a recipe for IFS.
It certainly contributes. Han argues this overload hinders our ability to discern what's truly important, weakening our judgment. It drowns out the signal with noise.
In all this noise, this flood of data, Han also worries about the decline of theory, like big ideas.
Yeah, he suggests that the intense focus on massive data sets and total transparency can actually undermine strong theoretical thinking. Theory often requires negativity making distinctions, defining boundaries, saying what something is by clarifying what it isn't.
Which is hard to do when everything is just a constant flow of undifferentiated information.
Right. And you can see echoes of this perhaps in how complex issues get flattened or debated superficially online. Data points and trending hashtags can overshadow deeper, more nuanced analysis.
Okay, one last really thought-provoking area Han touches on is eros. How does desire fit into this transparency society?
He argues that the transparency society is actually hostile to eros, to genuine desire and pleasure. Why? Because desire thrives on mystery, on the veil, on secrecy, on distance.
Ah, so if everything is instantly visible, totally exposed.
There's no room for the play of seduction, for the allure of the hidden. Han controversially links this compulsive transparency, especially online, to a kind of pornographication of society. Everything is put on display, immediately consumable, but without depth, intrigue, or genuine erotic tension.
So it's the opposite of the erotic, which needs that element of withdrawal, of something held back to spark desire.
Exactly. The erotic needs shadows, but the transparency society demands floodlights everywhere.
Okay, so let's try and pull these threads together.
Huh.
We have the achievement society pushing self-optimization, the violence of positivity creating exhaustion, hyper-attention killing deep thought, the digital panopticon where we expose ourselves, the transparency society eroding mystery and trust.
The shift from subject to project, the hunter mentality online, information fatigue, the potential decline of theory, and even the loss of eros.
It paints a pretty stark picture. Is this relentless pursuit of the optimized self on social media, based on Han's analysis, ultimately just self-exploitation? Is it creating this burnout society he warned about?
His work strongly points in that direction, that this constant performance, fueled by the pressures he identifies, might not lead to fulfillment at all, but rather to a profound emptiness and burnout. That in optimizing the online self, we might be losing touch with something deeper within ourselves and the world.
So, to recap the core concerns from Han regarding our online lives, we're driven by an internal achievement pressure, exhausted by the demand for constant positivity. Our focus is fractured by hyperattention. We willingly live in a digital panopticon. And the drive for transparency might be making things worse, not better.
It all converges on the central question. Are we, right now, living in the burnout society Han described, significantly fueled by our digital habits and this obsession with self-optimization?
It definitely makes you want to step back and think about your own relationship with social media, that pressure to curate, to perform. What's the actual cost?
Absolutely. And if you want to delve deeper, Han's books, The Burnout Society, The Transparency Society, In the Swarm, among others, are really powerful reads. They offer a challenging lens on modern life.
They certainly do, and maybe that leaves us with a final thought to chew on in this constant quest to perfect and optimize our online selves. Are we maybe accidentally eroding our ability to experience the things that actually make life rich and meaningful?
Yeah.
Deep connection, real, uncurated experiences, and just accepting that we're perfectly imperfect.
That's the crucial question, isn't it? Something to really consider long after this deep dive ends.